All right. Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to one of PrimePay's regular monthly broker webinars. We have been holding these broker webinars the first Wednesday of each month now for a number of years, and we are thrilled that you have taken time out of your busy schedules to sit with us today. Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Jackson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Broker Concierge here at PrimePay, and again, thrilled that you have joined us for a title of our webinar here today is Avoiding Open Enrollment Pitfalls. I'm excited about today's content. I'm excited, actually, about today's guest speaker, and speakers, I should say. So I will announce them here in just a little bit. As you know, over these many years, what we have tried to do with each and every webinar is be able to take very strong, comprehensive, maybe technical, regulatory content, right, and turn it into practical application. Here in September, this is kind of the start. Actually, you're kind of getting into the throes of your busy season, right? The selling season is upon us all. And more practical application methods, processes that we can impact you and your relationships with your clients, the better we feel. And actually, the better you're going to feel. So we're excited to bring you this great content here today because open enrollment is critical, right? Open enrollment has everything to do with what you do as a benefits broker. The better you can drive education, communication is certainly going to drive greater satisfaction for the benefits, but it's also going to have the impact of increasing the participation level as well. And that benefits everyone, certainly those here on the webinar here today. So before we get started, let's actually just handle or kind of cover some of the logistics here today. You'll notice that all of your lines are muted, but that is okay. We've got a lot of folks on the webinar here today, but we still want to hear from you. Our guest speakers are going to deliver some great content, and so you may have some questions. So what I would ask is if you would go into the Go to Meeting menu bar, the question box, go ahead and type in your question, and we will do our best at the end of kind of the content piece of our webinar today to answer those questions here for you. Okay, so please feel free as we go along through the webinar today to type in your question. Okay, if by chance you are asking a very specific question that we just can't kind of generalize, we certainly will have our guest speakers and their team reach out to you and get answers to your questions, okay, here offline and after the webinar. Also, one of the number one questions that we receive, can I get a copy of the presentation or can I get a copy of the recording? We are recording the webinar here today. We post these webinars publicly on our Broker Concierge channel on YouTube. And so look for that download to occur here over the next usually a couple days, and that will be posted there on our YouTube channel under Broker Concierge. So please also, stay with us here through the end. I will provide some additional information as to the follow-up email that will come up afterwards and the additional collateral materials that we will be providing as key takeaways of our webinar here today. All right. Avoiding open enrollment pitfalls. This affects us all. It certainly affects us here at PrimePay, but it affects certainly you a great deal. And you know what? It affects your clients a great deal. And so open enrollment is a key activity, and we thought it necessary to try to bring some additional strategies for you here today to try to drive better enrollment practices, right? We want you to avoid the pitfalls that are going to occur. And so I want to announce our presenters here today. I have had the wonderful opportunity to know these two individuals, Elsie Fairchild and Nash Skiles, here over the last many years. And we've been looking for opportunities to work together, and I'm excited that they are actually presenting today. And you do want to stay tuned for after their content. We've got some very important information to share in regard to a new partnership that we have with BEST. So let me tell you a little bit about our speakers and about their company. Benechoice Enrollment Solutions and Technology, otherwise known as BEST, was created in 2014, and it was based on the experience of its two owners here, as you see here, Elsie and Nash, and their knowledge that the entire employee benefits environment has shifted dramatically, knowing that many of their clients needed not only assistance, but many times guidance as well. Elsie and Nash have an extensive background in employee benefits communication, education, and core enrollment processes, actually over 50 years, folks, collectively. They have enjoyed year-over-year growth and recognize that the marketplace needs more in-depth solutions, support, and options. With the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, they quickly realized that clients and benefits brokers continue to need what they have perfected in their business model: employee communication, education, and benefit enhancements tools. With increased ACA reporting and tracking responsibilities now facing HR departments, the need for a wide selection of benefit administration systems has also become apparent, including implementation and ongoing support. Nash and Elsie's team consists of members that support the building and customization of many Ben admin platforms. They're committed to providing clients with the most up-to-date and innovative solutions available in today's marketplace. They also represent a carefully selected group of insurance carriers and non-insurance value-add vendors and continually negotiate with each of them to deliver the best combination of coverage, cost, delivery, service, and technology for each client. Now, I want you to stick with us at the end of our topic today, and I want you to learn a little bit more why our Broker Concierge program has selected BEST as our first affinity partner relationship. You're going to want to learn more about BEST and how they can immediately impact your selling and renewal season. So, Elsie, I'm actually now going to turn this over to you. Thank you for presenting today.
Thank you, Steve, so much for the introduction and for the opportunity. So what we want to talk about today is how to help you avoid some of the open enrollment nightmares. Even though it's only September 6th, I think open enrollment begins earlier and earlier every year. So a lot of us know that as we start looking at our clients and our renewal, that we have pitfalls in front of us today that we've probably never even recognized before. So what we want to talk about is how to help build an open enrollment program, really concentrate on the communication pieces, the variety of ways to distribute those pieces, and probably as importantly is to communicate a clear call to action. What are employees supposed to do and when are they supposed to do it? So I think one of the first things that come into play is defining the actual core objective of not only human resources, but the owner and or CFO of the company. And if you really think about that, a lot of times we're in meetings with one or the other, a lot of times not both. And if you really think about their objective, they're wearing two different hats. So you have the CFO who's looking at the bottom line. And as we all know, health insurance costs are one of the highest expenses a company has today. So they're looking to lower expenses, improve productivity. They have a whole different mindset as to what they're looking for. Human resources, on the other hand, in most cases, are looking at having less with more to do. So it used to be pretty standard that you should have one human resource employee for every 100 employees. I think most of us know a lot of our clients that might have one human resource person for every 3 or 4 employees. So now you have HR looking at how am I going to get open enrollment accomplished with less staff? How am I going to help my employees understand the changes that have taken place? What happened during this open enrollment? What tweaks did we make to our benefit programs? And, what is the end result in the end goal? So a lot of times when we get through the open enrollment decision process, it's throwing a bunch of enrollment forms somewhat at HR. We need all these back, and a lot of communication gets skipped. We do the same old all the time. So part of what our goal here is today is to talk about helping you and your value proposition and your agency, how to do it simply, how to bring you maybe a little bit more into the modern world of communication with employees, and how to help personalize that. And so how to make sure that HR and the owners call to end result is the same. So, in a little example, this month I am 30 years in the industry. So I've seen a lot, everything from, just your traditional plans to all the different things we see today. So I know a couple years ago, just to talk about the owner, CFO versus HR, we had a client. We don't sell health insurance. All we do is help you as the broker better implement and engage those employees and get really street level with the employees. So what had happened in one case was the CFO and owner decided they wanted to put in a bronze plan, and they wanted that to be the cheapest plan they could provide to their employee base. So that's what they did. They had a traditional plan. They put in a little higher deductible, and then they put in what they thought was going to be a really innovative way of showing employees, here's what's going on. What happened, however, out of their 700 employees, about 35 of the employees actually enrolled in the plan, the bronze plan, that they really had no intention of any employees enrolling in. They knew the deductible was too high. They knew that the employees that enrolled in that did not also complement it with an HSA plan. So what ended up happening is HR had to go, didn't have to, but they chose to go back individually to all those employees and try to talk them out of why they picked the cheapest plan on there. So I guess the moral of that story is not only to pay attention to how you're designing the plans and how HR and the CFO need to work together, but plan for the worst. If you put in a plan that you don't really want employees to enroll in, don't be surprised when they do. So those were a couple of things that happened, in those kind of scenarios. I think one of the biggest pieces that get missed in communication is looking at the exact demographics of your employer. How many baby boomers do they have? We've got Generation X and the millennials. We today have up to 5 separate generations of employees making up one employer workforce. So do baby boomers communicate and read and educate and understand in the same method as millennials? And another quick story was another client we were working with at HR, as we were sitting there waiting to go into a meeting, was really trying to calm down probably a baby boomer department head, upset that one of their employees, who's a millennial, refused to do anything that wasn't text. And so just that bantering back and forth of how employees communicate and how they want that information delivered to them becomes very, very important. So that's part of what we really specialize in is really looking at who are the employees, not only what are their demographics, but also where are they? Are they all in the office? Do you have satellite offices that many times tend to not necessarily plan on being neglected, but they do feel a little bit neglected? What about those remote employees that you have 10 salespeople spread out around the country? What happens with them, and how do we communicate and make sure that every employee has an option? Which brings us to what are some of the communication methods available? Interestingly enough, most of us are used to a company that may have an intranet site, as an example, or newsletters. But even with those, you want to keep that snappy material going on and not just blah information, because you want your employees to really look at it. And another big thing today is social media. A lot of companies have Facebook, have Instagram, have all sorts of social media. Don't forget to use some of those tools to help educate the employees on what's going on in their benefits today. Another thing is telecommunication, not only through emails, etc., but if you work with someone that really knows a lot of what's out there, there are ways to send voicemails directly to each employee's cell phone talking about open enrollment in little 1 and 2 minute voicemails. You can do mass text messages to employees, great for, in particular, a field force that is out in the field all the time, truck drivers, any number of employee base that don't have computers. They don't work in a cubicle. They're out and about. How do you communicate with those employees? So again, we help look at all the different methods there are, and many times it's a multiple component of how you actually communicate what it is that the open enrollment is about and what you're trying to get done. The next thing, once you do the communication, and you want to do this in an ongoing basis, but communicate a clear call to action. A lot of times what happens is employees know it's open enrollment, they receive some material, but they don't really know what is it that I am supposed to do. So there's a lot of, again, guidance we recommend on that. Little graphics even. Go to the website, go to this place on our website, click this button, and here's what's going to pop up. So you really want to help that employee know what is the call to action. If they're enrolling a spouse, do you have a dependent audit going on that they actually need to provide a copy of the marriage certificate or the birth certificate for children, that they need to update their group term life beneficiary information? When do they need to do that? And it's pretty easy and systematically to do, but that's where a lot of times that sort of gets lost in the weeds once you get through planning for open enrollment and the pricing and the plan designs. Also, then, how do they enroll? Even today with the millennials, they don't mind receiving a lot of information to read over, but employees today still like to talk to someone. And that is where, with HR being so strapped for time, and then you get into some of it on the HIPAA compliance, how much are they allowed to talk about? So the employees like to be able to talk to someone, whether it's over the phone, in person, web chat, all sorts of different ways that you can help make sure that your client and their employees have ways to communicate. Maybe it's signing up for a group meeting. There's a lot of options out there today that employees can sign up for which group meeting they're going to attend. So maybe there's a whole list of different days, different buildings, different times, and you can track who's signing up for what. If it's an active enrollment, and you want them to do individual meetings, they can sign up for an individual meeting. A really nice way to do that is to actually assign employees dates and times for their individual meeting and let them go in and change it if it's not going to meet with their schedule. So a lot of different ways with that call to action to make sure that that employee knows not only that it's open enrollment, but what is it I'm supposed to do. And then possibly at the end of the enrollment, a lot of times is sending out a completion email, letting them know, okay, you went online and you did your enrollment, and here's what we see that you chose to do this year. Another thing is really taking that consistent communication path and educating employees on what they do, what they're supposed to do, what's been changed, customizing it per client as much as possible, helping to educate the employees, enroll the employees, and at the very end of it, to measure what happened, is it what you expected to happen, where did we land, and what do we want to do differently? And all that is really an ongoing process. One of the things that comes into play today that we see more and more employers looking to do what's called a passive enrollment. And a passive enrollment is okay in some cases, but I challenge you to look at why are you choosing a passive enrollment? Many times it's staffing issue. Many times it's you, their trusted broker and advisor. You don't have time to go out, and you may be able to help with group meetings, but you certainly can't sit there with the employees. HR is backed up. A lot of things are going on. So if the staffing issue is the problem, there's all sorts of ways to have an active enrollment that doesn't really eat into your personal time. The other thing that happens with passive enrollment is the back-end cleanup. So passive basically in our world means if the employee does nothing, doesn't have to do anything, then their benefits will simply renew as is. If there's a cost share adjustment that comes into play, then that also is automated. The problem with that in a lot of times is given the option to do nothing, most employees will do just that. So if you have, in fact, we just had a case that renewed that had about 1,700 employees. They did choose to go passive this year, which is fine. They were surprised at the end of the enrollment that only 400 of their 1,700 employees bothered to even go in and review their current benefit selections. So they were a 9/1 effective date, and you can imagine right now in HR how many people are going to HR saying, oh, but I didn't realize that I had to do this before 9/1. So you also want to look and see, why are you going passive? If you want to go active, what are some support means that you can do with that? And then also you want to align that with your company objective. And with your company objective, many times going passive may not be tracking with your goals. So you want to clearly define what this year, every year's open enrollment goal is. Many times with larger clients in particular, we may look at a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year plan so that we know as a company going forward with the broker in HR and CFO and the pricing, where are we trying to get? And we set those goals, measure those results, and review it ongoing. And that's the other thing. We want to look at historically what's happened. Did you meet your objective? What's interesting is you've got two different ways of looking at it. You have open enrollment starts today. It ends in 2 weeks. I can't wait to see what happens when all the forms are turned in. And there's HR and CFOs and brokers waiting to find out what happened. Versus with some enrollment opportunities and benefit admin tracking and just tools that are available today, you can see on a daily basis who's enrolling, what are they enrolling in, which departments aren't being responsive, which satellite office has yet to have one employee sign on. You can literally track on an hourly, daily, minute-by-minute basis, if you want to, what is going on during our open enrollment. What does that mean? That means if your objective was that you want to get more employees enrolled in your qualified high deductible plan or whatever the case may be, you don't want to find that out at the end of the open enrollment, right? You want to find that out day 1, day 2, day 3, what is going on. With some of the benefit administration tools available today, you can even tweak the pattern that employees are going through open enrollment. So part of the goals as you're setting your goal would be an example. Do you have 2, 3, 4 health plan designs? If so, what's the objective? Are you trying to get more employees to enroll in the qualified high deductible health plan with an HSA? Or are you trying to get more employees to understand what a flexible spending account is? So as we look at what's going on in open enrollment, what is the outcome that we're shooting for, and monitor that throughout open enrollment and track the results daily, and then tweak it depending on what needs done. Education is key. Today, it's a pretty high statistic. I think I read 56% just a couple days ago of employees cannot tell you the difference between an HSA and an FSA. Well, of course, if they don't know the difference, they're not going to know which plan design is going to be the better fit for them. Another huge thing with health savings accounts, which are awesome tools today, does that employee understand the difference between just funding enough for their deductible versus are you really funding your health savings account for a medical retirement option as you get into your older ages and need more money? So that's the thing, is you set up what is the goal, where are you trying to get? Education-wise, did you put in a teledoc program? Does the carrier have that? Do employees understand what the difference is in that and how to utilize that? Those are all really great tools to help reduce or contain costs. But if employees don't understand how to use the system, they're not going to. Also, as you look at tweaking plan designs, what do you want to communicate? So if you have a lot of utilization at the emergency room and you look out, because nationally, it depends on where you're located. Do they have urgent care facilities? Many places do not. Many places are just now putting them in. A lot of locations across the country have had patient first or any number of urgent care facilities standalone for years and years. So depending on where you're at and what's happened in that community, helping to educate the employee on an urgent care versus emergency room can have a dramatically good impact on your bottom line. So another example I would give you would be a client 3 years ago. They have, I think they at the time had just under 600 employees, 80% female, average age was 32. Most of their employees were at least were college educated, so they had a pretty good workforce. But they were finding more and more of their employees were in what I call the traditional health plan. It was, a $250 or $500 deductible at the time. They weren't gravitating to the higher deductible plan. So with this particular company, as we sat down and looked at the goal, their goal was to get more of their employees into the qualified high deductible health plan, because they knew they were self-funded. So they knew from their claims results, the majority of their claims statistically were on maternity leaves, because this was a very high female young age group. So they did some pricing. They put in a qualified high deductible health plan. They packaged that with one of the newer voluntary benefits, a medical gap plan that would offset that deductible should it be triggered. We helped educate the employees on health savings accounts, the medical gap plan, the high deductible plan, how they all worked. Did all of that, and at the end, the result was 38% of the employees enrolled in the qualified high deductible health plan. A high percentage of those employees packaged that with the medical gap plan, but they certainly did not all enroll in that. Many of them did the HSA plan. So not only did they meet their objective, putting them in the qualified high deductible health plan, packaging it with HSAs and other options, those employees were able to put $56 per pay in payroll deduction contribution back in their pocket, as opposed to the traditional low deductible option most of them were going towards, because that's just what they understood. So if we're setting the goals and measuring them and tracking them as we go, a lot of times in the big picture, as you're looking at that 2-year, 3-year, 5-year plan, where are we trying to get to becomes very important. So that is the biggest thing here is educating and measuring. So a lot of ways to educate and enroll your employees in the benefits. I also want to encourage you to look at doing that year round, maybe on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. You're highlighting a benefit. There's also ways to put into play if employers, if your clients had to move some of their benefit dollars around, and maybe what used to be an employer paid plan, such as a short-term disability plan used to be employer paid, now they're making it voluntary. Educating employees on that, but then also maybe highlighting that one quarter a year. So when it's not all in the hubbub of open enrollment, you can also put into play automatic enrollment that employees have to opt out of. So depending on that benefit, it may be in communication. Hey, we've switched this plan around. Here's what's going to happen if you, the employee, if you do not want that to happen, you have to be proactive and tell us. Otherwise, you will be enrolled in this benefit going forward. So a lot of different things that we can do. And that's really what we wanted to highlight here today is just a few things to help you offset and avoid some of those open enrollment pitfalls.
All right. Well, yeah, Elsie, that is great content. We actually do have a question, and what I would ask everyone, if you do have a question for Elsie, please go ahead and go into the GoToMeeting question box. Go ahead and type in your question, and we'll be happy to take some questions. I know there's some maybe some questions here that we may need to take offline, but there's a good one here, Elsie. It says this, so they ask this: how do you handle a new client that wants the enrollment process to go quickly? They want to spend only 5 minutes per employee, which doesn't give enough time if they have any questions. How would you handle this time-sensitive issue with the client and the employee?
Good question, and not enough information to answer that question. So I guess the first thing is, what are they? Do they have one health plan, one dental plan, what do their benefits look like? And that's the challenge. If they have 3 health plans, FSA, HSA, you can't do it in 5 minutes and do it successfully without a lot of pre-communication. So that'd be the first thing I would look at, is what's the demographics, what's the logistics, what are the opportunities, are there mailer opportunities, any number of things. The more education that employee receives, then we can get a lot done in 5 minutes, but 5 minutes isn't a lot of time. So again, I'm going to go back to, depending on what they're doing, they may or may not have a realistic expectation.
Okay. Well, great. I mean, I think, you kind of said it, really well on the slide about tracking open enrollment, setting goals, measure results, implement, alternative communication tools. Every client is a little different. They're going to have different time periods. If you can get ahead of the curve, I know here at PrimePay, when we think about enrollment opportunities, much like the person who asked the question here, I mean, we don't have a lot of time to talk about flexible spending plans and maybe some of the ancillary types of services there. So, what can we do? Maybe it's ahead of time or throughout that open enrollment period that we could communicate, educate a little bit further so that they can make the best decision. And I know, as you were saying, probably not enough information, but there are absolutely ways, even with a short amount of time, maybe there's ways for, pre-communication, before that 5 minutes, meeting, to be able to really drive some additional education and content. Maybe there's a calculator, maybe there's a tools, maybe there's a comparison sheet, things like that you could really educate. So I appreciate that, Elsie. Thank you. All right. Well, folks, what we'd like to do here now, I hope that you have found this, some of these pitfalls that you can avoid here as far as your open enrollment processes and running through these with each and every client. Every client is a little different, but I hope that you had learned a little bit as to what is available, to you, because there are many options. Don't think of just the traditional type of meeting. There are so many ways, as Elsie had mentioned, in social media to intranet to so many other things that could be done. Even a webinar setting like we're doing here today, could be very valuable to the team. So what we would like to do here now, and it's a little different than what we normally do, but we have recently formed a relationship, a partnership here with Best. As you're, certainly familiar with, as part of our broker concierge program, we ultimately here at PrimePay need to deliver value, not just value and solutions, but tools, resources, so many other things, right, to help you succeed with your agency, but also to overcome the many business challenges that your clients face. And so as we look at growing our broker concierge partner program, we now have a couple thousand broker concierge partners that are part of our program, and we thank you for your partnership. And as we've looked to increase the value to you, there are certainly some instances where we can build this ourselves, right? And there's many times where we may need to partner because of the level of experience and expertise or the solution set that a partner can bring to the table. There's been a consistent discussion with our broker partners in bringing additional value in the areas that Best is involved in. Beth, and I'm going to actually have Elsie share a little more, talk a little more here about Best here in just a second. So what BEST does, so Benechoice, Enrollment Solutions and Technology, are involved heavily in communication and education. As you can see from the slides and the content, Elsie really talked a lot about ways to communicate, but there's a strong drive of education, and it's so much aligned with what our broker partners ultimately want. And so what they do is BEST takes this communication and education, and they wrap this into kind of I'll call it three core solutions. And again, I'll let Elsie kind of touch into this, but it's enrollment services, it's technology solutions, and it's also product. It's voluntary benefit or ancillary benefit product as well. And as many of you know, with our Broker Concierge program, we have developed this program to really cover 4 key areas or challenges that you face, right? One of the big areas that how your agency wants to improve and have success is strengthening client relationships. And a reason why we partnered with BEST is that they are aligned with that key pillar of ours as well. They can strengthen broker relationships by providing an implementation team for core open enrollment support, and it includes all employee benefits, communication, and education. They can truly, through their call center benefits support, technology support, can truly strengthen your client relationships, which is so valuable, right? Retention is very critical. Another key piece, kind of a key pillar for our Broker Concierge program, is neutralizing competitive threats. Competitors like ADP, Paychecks, and certainly a lot of these new disruptors out there called, Zenefits, to namely, and many others. They have their own employer benefit divisions. And so there's a need for you to increase broker options. And through BEST, we have the opportunity to increase your options by including a multitude of other programs and plan designs in voluntary benefits, technology solutions, and the like. Another is the demands of your employers. They are ever increasing. We certainly feel it here from PrimePay. And having BEST, their expertise and experience from Elsie and Nash and the rest of their team, they can truly help to actually answer those vital questions, but provide the necessary support and education enrollment to meet those complex employer demands. And then lastly, what we loved about BEST, as we've talked about over the years, right, we have created this program to not be competitive at all with you, our benefits broker and partner. And so through BEST, we have an opportunity to create new revenue streams. And so what BEST brings is that they can bring an additional commissionable product and service options that can greatly add to your revenue. And so we're really, really excited about that. And so Elsie, I'm going to kind of turn this back over to you. We're excited about adding you as our first affinity partner relationship, just that additional value added kind of service offering in value add for our broker partners. And so Elsie, why don't you share a little bit about your company here and give us a little more detail to it?
Thank you very much. We are so excited about being an affinity partner with PrimePay. We've, as Steve mentioned early on, we work in the same circles. We work with the broker community. We don't sell anything that competes with what you are doing. Our whole process is to help differentiate you, the broker, from, as Steve mentioned, now some of the competitors out there. All sorts of things are going on that are you have to respond to that may or may not make you any money. In fact, a lot of them cost you money if you're not careful. So I have 30 years in, Nash is 22 years in. We have clients that I can think of one client in 38 states. So how do you deal with multi-location employer groups, multi-state employer groups? We started doing core benefit enrollments back in the mid-1990s, so just to age myself a little bit. But same thing is, how do you, the broker, differentiate to you, your client, what you can do to make their life easier? And that is really what we focus on. With the ACA coming into play and the reporting and all the things going on, A lot of clients needed a Ben admin system anyway, but now with a lot of that reporting, it's almost impossible for them to do it accurately without. We have over 1,200 companies in our office that we service all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you're located. The only thing that's going to vary is sometimes, you know, who the carriers may be and what kind of recommendation we're going to have on some of that. But definitely our value proposition is also to keep it simple, modernize how you're communicating with your employer clients and their employees, and how to personalize the benefit offering to the employees, which also has become very important today. If that clicks forward. And so one of the other things that come in is all we do is work through brokers and help you with benefit communication and our goal is to create a greater partnership between you and your client. If you think about, you know, how strapped you are for time now, how strapped HR is, we actually want to be an extension of your agency that you can talk to your clients about an implementation team approach, how to take it from HR down to the employees, and that's really what we specialize at. We just help create greater administrative efficiencies for HR. We do offer a very robust product line on the voluntary side. We work with a lot of different carriers, so again, it's going to depend on what is the best fit for you. Many times what comes into play is what's going on in the medical side or the budgeting tools. Did your client have to eliminate or reduce an employer-provided benefit based upon some things going on in the core medical plan, and what kind of solutions are out there? And then enrollment in administrative and technology solutions. So we help pick the best of breed for any of the things that we recommend. All of them are commissionable pretty much, so that's going to help you as well. So our biggest thing is to work with you, the carrier, the client, and come up with what is the best solution that we can have for you on a local or national level. Benefit administration systems, talk a little bit about that. One of the things we run into during the open enrollment the open enrollment process. We many times meet in one way or the other, whether it's face-to-face, depending on where the location is. Is it on the phone? We have a very robust call center. That call center is here in our office, so it is actually, we don't outsource that at all. So it's all trained people that are benefit counselors that help those employees look at what choices are in front of them, ask them some very pointed questions. How do you use your health plan? How many times do you go to the doctor? Many of the tools we provide to you are comparison tools that employees can go in and fill out their own questionnaire, which is going to be the better fit for you financially. And some of them are self-enroll or online services, any number of things. So we help that employee with the entire process. Many of the Ben admin systems help them see what's going on during the enrollment process. Another thing with the benefits administration system, a lot of you maybe have bought into a system today, and that's fine. We work with I think last we looked was 38 different systems we've worked with. If you don't have a system, we actually have some systems available. One of the things Steve talked about in the pillars and why our relationship really connects so well with the different things that PrimePay promises under the broker concierge services, we align with as well. One of them is saving you money. We have a lot of broker partners that we work with today that at some point bought into a benefit admin system only to find now they have to hire tech people to run the system. There's not one system that will fit every single client. So we have a multitude of systems that we work with you and your client to find out what's the best fit for them. Most of them do connect with payroll, including PrimePay. So again, a nice connection. If the Ben admin system doesn't talk to payroll, it's not quite as robust as everyone would like, but it's going to depend on that client. So we can do a lot of things with that. We are full service, self-contained. We have general agency contract with multiple carriers to help deliver systems and pricing that can fit everyone's budget. The other thing is just wrapping it all up, not only the communications, enrollment support, cost savings, but voluntary benefits. Employees today need a very robust system to look at their benefits and what's going to happen with it. So many times employers aren't looking at voluntary benefits, but if you think about it, the more comprehensive a benefits package and the more competitive plan, the higher the retention of the employees, and that is a very cost-saving mechanism for your client. 17% of new employees today leave within 90 days. So helping that client bring people on board them and do everything that's necessary means you need more than just a health plan. A couple other things that come into play is that shifting cost. The average deductible today, according to Kaiser, 51% of employers today have a $1,000 deductible. 23% have a $2,000 deductible. As we all know, most employers are not really that 500 and up. So when you look at an employer that has 200 or less employees, their average deductible nationally is $1,600. That being said, the average employee today will tell you 47% of the employees surveyed in 2016 said they could not cover a $400 expense without borrowing money or selling something. 31% of those employees say they actually skip medical care because they can't afford the deductible. So giving employees some of these voluntary benefits that come into play to help offset those out-of-pocket expenses can really make a huge difference to HR, the CFO, and your bottom dollar because they all pay, well, most of any of the voluntary benefits are going to pay commission, so it helps increase commission to you. When we're looking at benefit technology, by partnering with Best, we have multiple solutions. So many times, instead of looking at a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year investment in a benefit admin system, now you have to hire someone in-house to build and maintain the system. You can outsource a lot of that to us and save that revenue, and then in many cases, add voluntary benefits. We also have pricing models that have no voluntary benefits attached to them. So if you have a client that simply needs a ben admin system that's going to talk to all the different carriers and help with that, there are options there for that. Many times voluntary benefits do come into play. They help bridge that widening financial gap that more and more employees are seeing today that they simply don't have the money to offset. So with that, let's help us. We want to help you take your client to that paperless open enrollment process. And a lot of these benefit administration systems do that. Benefits are complicated. Your enrollment strategy does not have to be. We partner with, obviously, with PrimePay. We have a lot of different options, and I've worked with Employee Navigator, bSwift, Celerix, eCentral, PlanSource, just to name a few. So those are a little bit of the different types of things that we do. Again, we appreciate what PrimePay has done and invited us in, and we appreciate all the time for the attendees today to spend with us.
Fantastic. I want to just go back here actually to one of your slides here, Elsie, just to kind of paint a picture a little bit more. You know, you guys provide so much, you know, very strong in the education and communication and really focused certainly on enrollment technology, you know, voluntary benefits, and benefits communication, enrollment support, and so forth. And you just couple that, folks, with what PrimePay delivers with a vast array of employee management and employer compliance solutions, along in a non-competitive way to really partner with your agency. Think about how your agency will be equipped to either get out there and acquire all types of new business, but certainly drive retention and really strengthening existing client relationships with these comprehensive solutions. So we are excited to have Best aboard our program. You're going to see from us, I know many of you subscribe to our PrimePay blog. You will notice that there is a blog here today that has been published with us and with Best in mind here, how to enable employees to make smart healthcare decisions. Ask you to go ahead and look at that blog here today. It tells you a little bit more about how Elsie and Nash work with brokers and ultimately really drive solutions to your clients and the employees. We also, many of you, there's several other questions here, but probably things that can be taken offline. Many of you have questions about costs and different things like that. We will be sending in the follow-up email here over the next day or two, we will be providing a kind of a web page that you can go to put in your information, ask your question, and send that over to us, and then we're going to make sure that we connect you directly with Best and Elsie and Nash and their team. So look for that information in the follow-up email to be coming, here shortly. Maybe many of you are also just wondering, hey, I'd like to have a little more information, more detail in regard to Best and what they're doing here in the market. I have got a lot of upcoming meetings that I could utilize their support. In the follow-up email, we will provide additional details on where you can go, who you can see, provide a flyer so you have a little more information about what Best can ultimately do. As we do in all cases with our webinars, we have recorded our webinar today, so we will include a link to that recording. But we've got some exclusives actually for our BC partners, and you will be receiving the presentation slide deck here today. And also, actually, I know many of our partners have been asking. Shortly, folks, we are going to be announcing our year-end sales promotion. That is going to be announced soon. This is available for our broker concierge partners. So if you have not been appointed as a broker concierge partner today, I would ask that you seek our team. You'll see the numbers there above. Feel free to reach out to us, call us, send us an email, get to know how Broker Concierge and now Best can actually drive significant value for your agency and really help you not only retain the clients that you have, but really seek to help hopefully increase and acquire new business here in this key selling season. We're here to help, and we've enjoyed partnering with you. And also, clients, you've got a lot of clients that need information, right, and education. And we do have an upcoming client webinar here on September 20th. Please invite your clients. It's a client-based webinar, and it's on flexible spending plan strategies. And I know many of you might be implementing these strategies here in the fall, so it'll be a great one for you to attend. Also, for our broker concierge partners, and certainly those who are seeking to become a partner, you can attend our live BC Portal trainings every week. We have 4 of them running live every week, and you can reach out to our concierge team, and we can provide you with those details. So, Elsie, thank you so much for your presentation and the content that you provided. We're excited about the opportunity to work with you, but more than that even, we're excited about the ability to really bring you to our broker partners and add so much value to them here in this key selling season. So with that, that will conclude our webinar today. Have a great day, and we look forward for you attending additional webinars here coming up very soon. Have a good one. See ya.
Thank you.